I'm a trial lawyer. I'm a University of Tennessee grad. I like to think of that as God's university. That's why the sun rises in the east and it's orange. You know, as my dad used to say, he said, boy, I want you to get that education so you get the money to hunt and do some of the things that you want to do. And so built a practice here in town. And after 33 years of it, getting a little bit of time to take some trips that I call trips of a lifetime, things that I wouldn't have ordinarily been able to do. And I've been blessed by meeting some really nice people and getting those opportunities.
A lot of people dream of hunting in Alaska, which we're going to talk about today. Not everybody gets to do it, so it's cool. We're going to hear the stories today and kind of live through you on some of these adventures.
I've got to bring this up before we get into the hunting stories. Have you ever had a better dressed guest?
I have not. I've heard he's won quite a few awards for his attire.
I don't know about that, but put it to you this way. When I'm out in the woods or I'm out fishing, you know, that's kind of my undercover look because they ain't nobody going to recognize me, you know? I mean, I got my hunting gear on. I got my cap on. I'm on the down low. I'm enjoying what I like to do.
The award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. We're glad you're tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We got a great show lined up for you today. We're still in Knoxville, Tennessee, right outside of Knoxville at the John Sevier Hunter Education Center, and I'm glad Matt Cameron's having us here and helping me co-host.
Yeah, buddy. We always love having you here in God's country and Big Orange country.
Yeah, go Big Orange. Glad to be here. It's awesome to be in East Tennessee in the fall. It's the best time of year, best place to be. We're going to talk about big game hunting today. It's going to be kind of all over the place today. We got Mr. T. Scott Jones, attorney here in Knoxville, and excited to have him on the show. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, man, I tell you what, man, it's an honor to be asked. I mean, this is kind of like a boyhood dream as a hunter and a fisherman, so this is big stuff.
Very cool, very cool. Well, you have a show of your own and a lot of stuff going on. We're going to get into all that today, but I appreciate you being here. It's going to be fun.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Radio station for today. We appreciate our radio partners. I'm going to jump a little bit further south from Knoxville today. WJSQ 101.7 FM out of Athens, Tennessee. We appreciate our radio partners, and that station carries the show. WildCast on Saturday mornings at 6 a.m. and WildCast Extra is our daily show at 6 a.m. So every day of the week, you can catch us at least a 5-minute portion, and by the end of the week, you've heard the whole show with those extras. So we appreciate our radio partners and all across the state, but especially today, Athens station, WJSQ 101.7 FM. So
is that where you're from, that area?
Yeah, that's right across the hill from Decatur, Tennessee, where I grew up. So yeah, it's great to be on the station down that way.
Heck yeah, making the hometown proud.
Yeah. And if you haven't, while we're talking about it, I'll go ahead and plug a show from the past, a show with Chris Hennessy, country music artist, big game hunter. Grew up there in Decatur as well. We did a show with him, so if you haven't heard or seen that one, go check it out.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic musician. I got to see him up in Bristol way back when. Philip Earhart, he used to work for us, now works for the National Forest Service, but his family owns property right next to the Bristol Motor Speedway. Mm-hmm. It's a gold mine, as you can imagine. It's a campground, but Chris Hennessy would come and play back then in the campground, man. So, yeah, I've been following him for going on 20 years, I guess, now.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's fun. Well, Scott, I appreciate you coming on. Like we said, you're a big game hunter, attorney here in Knoxville, but just give us a little bit of history about yourself and kind of how you came up in the outdoors and grew to love hunting and fishing here in Tennessee.
Well, you know, I've got sort of broad generation gaps in my family. My dad always grew up, you know, hunting and fishing and everything of that nature, and so believed in basically indoctrinating us early. So, you know, we started shooting early, you know, obviously for me, raising ourselves with firearms and fishing and everything of that nature. Grew up in Oak Ridge, and so fortuitously, I was real close growing up to the Oak Ridge Sportsman Association. Okay. And so Daddy'd take me out there, and, you know, I guess I started with a BB gun at age 5. I had a .22 at age 7 and a shotgun at 10. And albeit I don't know how much success I was having, but I was having a lot of fun. And I think probably more than anything else, I was building that relationship with my father and a lot of respect for the outdoors and understanding that, you know, obviously nature gives to us, and we got to get back to nature by respecting nature.
Yeah, definitely. We say it a lot on the show, but our fathers, our grandfathers were big influence on us. And in a lot of cases, uncles, and then in this day and age, a lot of moms and mothers and stuff are a big influence on getting us outdoors. But that's pretty cool. You have that with your dad.
Well, when you get out there and you're enjoying that time, I mean, those are the memories. I mean, I have those distinct memories of just sort of snippets of times with my father and being out there. And I mean, I'll never forget. I mean, sitting out there on the lake down at Watts Bar eating Vienna sausages out of a can, eating saltines, and thinking, that's like a filet mignon to me. I was just glad to be there with my daddy.
Yeah, that's the lunch of choice, I guess, for a lot of fishing trips, hunting trips. It takes and keeps, and you can stay full. So, give us a little background on your work here in Knoxville. What you do?
Well, I'm a trial lawyer. I'm a University of Tennessee grad. I like to think of that as God's university.
Go big on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the sun rises in the east and it's orange. So we know all good things start with the bright color orange. But that being said, I went down to undergraduate in Atlanta at Emory, came back up here and went to UT's law school, started practicing in 1990, and have been here ever since. And, as my dad used to say, he said, boy, I want you to get that education so you get the money to hunt and do some of the things that you want to do. And so just basically built a practice here in town. And, now, knock on wood, after 33 years of it, getting a little bit of time to take some trips that I call trips of a lifetime, things that, I wouldn't have ordinarily been able to do. And I've been blessed by meeting some really nice people and getting those opportunities.
Yeah. It's a lot of people dream of hunting out west or hunting in Alaska, which we're going to talk about today. Getting out of the state of Tennessee, but not everybody gets to do it. So it's cool. We're going to hear the stories today and kind of live through you on some of these adventures.
Well, I tell you what, it's like I look back through my pictures that I have on my phone and stuff, and it's like other folks are like, hey, I want to see this picture. I mean, mine's going to be all these wildlife pictures on my phone, like, hey, you see this? And, that's what I enjoy. I mean, a lot of my pictures are game that I've seen that, it's just neat to be out there observing things. I was in Nashville yesterday, and I was at the Parthenon. And, I'm sitting there, was killing a little bit of time, and here's this squirrel on this tree doing this, and I've got these pictures filming this squirrel on a tree in the middle of Centennial Park in downtown Nashville. So just the appreciation and the observing things, I mean, to me, that's cool.
Appreciate you bringing that up. This is a man that's hunted and killed moose, killed elk.
Yep, absolutely.
Going on a caribou hunt. He's killed mountain lion, but he sat there and recorded a squirrel on a tree in downtown Nashville. So I appreciate you saying that, brother. I've got to bring this up before we get into the hunting stories. He's got plenty of them. Have you ever had a better dressed guest on the show?
I have not. I've heard he's won quite a few awards for his attire.
Tell us about your.
Well, I don't know about that, but as they say, a blind squirrel finds a few nuts, and so that may have been it. But my daddy used to always say, he says, son, they're going to talk about you, and so we'd rather have them talk about you for being well dressed than poorly dressed. So I take great pride in it, and I've been recognized a few times for that. So I'm very, very blessed about that. But let's put it to you this way: when I'm out in the woods or I'm out fishing, that's kind of my undercover look, because ain't nobody gonna recognize me. I mean, I got my hunting gear on, I got my cap on. I'm on the down low. I'm enjoying what I like to do.
I'm sure it's pressed though, right?
Probably. Now he's got how about your snuggie?
We've got that dead down scent, and now I tell you what, I mean, shameless plug. I got one of them heater body suits.
Oh.
And where we hunt up in Illinois a lot, we got some leases up there. It gets cold, and I mean, it certainly gets cold in East Tennessee. But when I saw the advertisements for that thing, I thought, is that thing really that big a deal? And so ordered one for me and my son. And I mean, I got the bigger. It's like a wigwam. I'm in there and I'm good and warm. I love that.
So you mentioned your son, and I don't think we touched on it, but you're passing your love for hunting on to your son?
Absolutely. Both my son and my daughter, they're both outdoor folks, and my son has been hunting with me quite a bit. He's now matriculating in Nashville in law school, and so he works full time for the state. He works for the Tennessee Secretary of State, and he's in law school at the Nashville School of Law. Goes to law school at night, and my daughter just graduated law school, and she is now practicing with us. She's finishing up her licensure stuff as we speak. And so, I love being outside with them, doing stuff, because hopefully I'm creating the same type of memories that my father created with me. Yeah. And they'll remember, when the old man's dead and gone, that, he spent the time with me, because, it doesn't matter how much money you got. It doesn't matter anything else materially. But at the end of the day, the one thing you can't buy time, and you can't buy those memories.
Yeah, that's
well said.
Yeah, very much so. So before we get into these stories, we were chatting before the show, and you mentioned that you play by the rules.
Absolutely.
It's and safety is number one, and you took hunter safety right here, correct?
1979. I actually pulled my card out. I mean, that's not just, talk. I mean, legitimately was here. Man, my dad came over here. Of course, obviously you would have been an age that it wouldn't have been required for him to have taken it, and, thought it was so important to impress those rules upon me. I mean, not only for safety, but also so that we preserve basically it for generations to come. Mm-hmm. And I think any true hunter observes and does his or her dead level best to hunt within the rules, to fish within the rules. And the rules are there, I mean, not only for the hunter or the fisherman's protection, but they're also there for the protection of the very nature and the wildlife that we're out there enjoying.
Right, yeah, to protect that resource.
Absolutely.
Well, we were chatting, and you mentioned the tack line story. Playing by the rules, you can easily mess up, right?
Well,
can you share that story?
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. I was hunting up there in Illinois, and we'll be looking on the, if you will, the onyx and everything else, and we'll be dropping, if you will, points. And so I'm up there with my guide. He's a friend of mine. He's like, Scott, you're going to be hunting in this area. I'm like, okay. You're going to pull your car next to this corn silo, and then you're going to walk in. It's about 1.5 miles in, and says, when you get close to this fence line, there's going to be these tack lines. Well, of course, got my headlamp on. It's about 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm just following this tack line. Well, evidently, there's another tack line there close by, and I got off on the wrong tack line, and so of course, all of a sudden there's a stand. So I climb up there and I get all locked on and using my safety harness. I believe in those too.
Yeah.
I mean, that being said, those hard falls, they can end your life, and I mean that little bit of safety, that's what you do. So I'm all strapped in. So I saw a lot of deer moving and everything, but just nothing that I was in a position where I was going to take or was of such a sufficient size that I felt like it'd be suitable. So I'm back at the lodge that night, actually, Jeremy's house, and I'm talking to him, and I'm like, yeah, I was sitting there, and there's that stream there, and he says, Scott, there ain't a stream. I'm like, yeah, Jeremy, there's a stream. I was hunting it. I saw it. I know what a stream is. And he goes, oh, God. Says, he's on the neighbor's property. And I legitimately didn't know. I'd gone in with a headlamp, and, did I? I don't know. Hopefully the statute of limitations broke on it. I didn't shoot anything, so I was a wildlife observer that day. Yeah. I was not a hunter. I was appreciating nature.
It can happen, and play by the rules, and do what you can to be correct, but it happens. You can get off track or something.
All those little safety tips, think about it. You know what I mean? You're going to step over a fence or whatever, don't load your weapon. Just do it the right way. I mean, don't try to take that shortcut. You know what I mean? You climbing up the stand with your rifle loaded. Why? What's the purpose of it? I mean, how many times have you had that just snapshot climbing up a stand, holding on with one arm with your rifle? It ain't going to happen. So just play by the rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of not playing by the rules, we got to bring up the Dutch Valley elk, because he's very passionate about this on a personal level.
That really bothers me. I tell you what. I mean, seriously. I mean, a blind man could tell the difference between a whitetail and an elk. I mean, there is such a disparity in size. I mean, what's the purpose in doing that? And then beyond that, I mean, even having such a hard time understanding somebody making that kind of mistake, then to just leave it. I mean, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? That being said, I hope you folks get that individual. I hope you prosecute him to the full extent of the law, because that is ruining it for everyone else.
Yeah, it sure does. This show, we may find them before this show airs. I don't know, but yeah, just if you hear a tip or know something about that, share it with us. We'd love to track that guy down for sure.
Throw it out there real quick. On October 8th, but it was a Sunday, we received a call about a bull elk that had been shot with a crossbow bolt in the Dutch Valley area of what county would that be there?
That's Campbell County, isn't it? I don't know if it's Campbell. Anderson, excuse me. You're right. It is Anderson.
Getting off track there. So anyway, left it laying there, and we're looking for information about that. It's up to $4,000 now, a reward from Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, CORA, which is the Campbell Outdoor Recreation Association, NWTF chapter up there, and the Tennessee Wildlife Federation. So anyway, really good reward there. We want information, 1-800-831-1174. If you've got any information about that, pass it along. That bull was probably, they say, 17 years old. The locals have been watching this thing forever.
Wow. Okay.
Lived a pretty easy life, so they can live longer up there, eating, waddling out there in the field, getting fat and happy. And his antlers had started on the downhill because he was so old. He's past his prime, but just sad that thing had lived that long, and somebody just dusts him and leaves him laying.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that some of those facts. I appreciate you sharing that. Matt, which adventure do you want to cover first?
Well, I've been thinking a lot about this. I want to keep Alaska to the end because it fascinates me. And there's a quote, I think it was a John Muir quote, that said, "It's better to see Alaska as an old man, because if you see it as a young one, you won't appreciate anything else, because it's beyond, from what I understand, anything else that is on the face of the planet." You've been there on a cruise, the man that's hunted there. So let's keep Alaska.
Okay.
We'll finish with it. My man here's hunted mountain lion, and is it Nevada or Nevada?
Well, I don't know. I say Nevada, but you know what I mean. It was quite a hunt. I mean, it was an adventure in and of itself. As I indicated, the guide that I decided to use, and if you're unfamiliar with territory, I mean, the reality of it is, get you somebody or help orient yourself so that you know what you're doing. And he was a works for the federal government wildlife tracker out of Utah, and we hunted with him in Nevada, and he would utilize his time off, and we hunted utilizing dogs, and we were fortuitous in that we had gotten a dusting of snow. There was snow on the ground, but we got fresh snow, and you really got to have the fresh snow to spot the tracks, to even have an idea where to turn the dogs out as far as for them to pick up the scent. And when you're sitting there hunting with hounds, I mean, you better be physically in shape, because those dogs are going to go. They're GPS tracked, and you've got that tracker. And we also were fortunate. We had snow machines, I learned, out there in the West, they call them snow machines. We call them snowmobiles. We're going snowmobiling, but call them snow machines. And, it is a adventure of a lifetime. You're eating energy bars. You're going. And you're watching those points. And so that being said, when you see sort of the convergence of the GPS, you realize that you've got the cat treed. And so, we've got the snow machines. We get on and we go as far as we can. And then we still realize that we're like, 2.5, 3 miles from the tree, and that's as far as the snow machines can go, because they're not going to be, and these are not on trails. I mean, you're riding cross country on these things, and they're bouncing and swaying, and albeit he was highly skilled at it, my skill level was somewhat below his, but we got there, went up there, and it was something I'm glad I did. It was very, very physically demanding. As we're coming up, we've all heard of buck fever, right? You see that just beautiful deer, and you're no longer squeezing the trigger, you're jerking, and your heart's going ba-boom, 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 and you're all excited. Well, the same thing's happening. You got this cat in a tree, and you're looking at it, and you're just like, and then you trying to go back in your mind, at least I do, is like think about everything that I need to do to steady my nerves, to make sure that I don't want to blow my opportunity, because that's really all you can ask in hunting is an opportunity. And, I'm there and the cat's there. And I actually had an old Marlin 336 35 caliber. Okay,
right.
So 35 caliber. It was an older gun with a Tasco scope. Tells you how old it is. It was like a 1971 model, which weapon. And I calmed down and squeezed, and I was successful. And I have a neat picture, and everybody's like, "Oh, you smiling?" I'm like, "No, it was 167 pounds. I was gritting my teeth because, I'm not that big a guy, and I'm holding that cat up, and I'm like, that rascal was heavy."
Wow.
So,
yeah.
but it was the walk back was much easier than the walk there on that. And I tell you, too, the safety and everything of that nature, I have a Garmin inReach, and I did not take it on that trip. I normally do, because I wasn't expecting that. And, of course, in Alaska, and that ability to at least have some ability to summon help. And, as a hunter, I think you've got to respect the fact that, we all consider ourselves pretty good outdoorsmen and outdoors people, but you can get in over your head real quick. And sometimes you got to check that ego. I know that when I was up in Alaska, I sure did.
Well, even in Tennessee, in some places, it's wild enough that you could get lost, or
especially hunting alone.
Yeah. Get turned around, it get dark quick or something.
Well, look how fast hypothermia sets in. You know what I mean? You're hiking, you get hot, that sweats on your body, and then you stop the motion, and then you start cooling down. Bad things can happen. You all of that stuff that we get drilled into our head to take as safety gear, and then we're like, well, maybe I'm not going to take that. I always look at it, I'd rather, as I was a Boy Scout, Eagle Scout too, by the way, be prepared.
Yeah.
So, understand that, there are unfortunate eventualities that you can't plan for, and you better look out for your own self.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Alaska. Yeah, we'll get there before we run out of time.
Hard to believe we're 20 minutes in already.
Yeah, I know.
My verbosity knows no bounds. Look at that. I'm sort of shy. In case y'all didn't notice.
Yeah. So, moose, right? Is that what we went after in Alaska?
Absolutely.
Lay it on us. In the Bear Grease podcast, I talked about it before, but
Yeah.
I'm enamored with it. Are you familiar with the Bear Grease podcast?
Oh, yeah.
Love it, man. They did a whole 2 or 3 series on Alaska, and he mentioned this, and I did not understand this about Alaska. 660,000 square miles. This is one state. California, Montana, and Texas will all fit inside Alaska, and we know how big those states are. So help me understand.
Well, let me give you an example, right? Being involved basically as wildlife officers and familiar with the state of Tennessee, we look at acreage, right? Because that's generally how we talk. So there was one ranger in the Whitchick State Park, right? So you're like, okay, one ranger, whatever. 1.67 million acres.
Wow.
Okay.
That she patrolled?
She patrols with a float plane. And obviously boats, watercraft, and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But for the most part, a float plane, because you can't strap the boat to the side of the float plane and fly up there and then go from there. And it was amazing. I tell you, I had not seen in the wild, but just on a few occasions. And this is kind of the porcupines. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I saw one when I was there.
And you're like, wow,
Yeah.
we saw all sorts of, and everybody's like, do you see any bears? I'm like, yeah, like 300 or 400. Because they're salmon fishing. The bear, the salmon are on the streams, and it's a resource for the bears to go eat. And then you're looking, for all of the bushes with the various berries and stuff like that. And at the time that I was there about a month ago, the bears are all putting on weight because they're getting ready to hibernate, and they're big brown bears, and it is definitely sort of wild and woolly country, and you realize just I could sit there at some points just looking at these vistas and just awestruck, and then thinking in my mind, there's not been another man or woman walk on some of these areas that I'm there. And the moose in and of themselves, they're solitary animals. And I think folks get some sort of a perspective that they're like a herd animal and they're just going to stand out there in the field, and there's no patterning them. We get used to all of these hunts with, whitetail, where we're going to set up our cameras and we're patterning them and we have an idea of what they're going to do. You can't pattern 1.7 million acres. It just, it ain't going to happen.
That's a lot of cameras.
And so you're looking, and I mean, I've never seen an animal that large move that silently, because the ground cover, so to speak, is a bog in a lot of the areas up there in Alaska, and it's like walking on a wet sponge. So you're in waders, by that like trout fishing waders with your wader boots, and the non-porous rubber soled, so that you do not take, with the felt waders, if you will, microorganisms from one water source to another. So that being said, just big fan of those as opposed to, contamination. But you're hunting and you're working so hard. I mean, there were days that we had, our phone, even though it's not working, will count your steps, over 30,000 steps. And, go hike 14 or 15 miles up and down knolls and through bogs in waders. I mean, it will definitely get your attention. At the end of the day, there is no, we're going to sit around the campfire and talk. You're going to sleep.
Yeah,
just
like a collapse.
Yeah, I mean, it is an exhaustion.
You pursued this moose 8 days, 8 full days, correct?
8 full days.
Tell us how you keep your mind set.
I tell you, it's so different than like whitetail hunting, at least the whitetail hunting that I've done, in that, at the end of the day, when you're cold and you're wet and you're clammy and it's been a long day and you've been sitting for 12 or 14 hours, you go in, you can get a hot shower, you can change your clothes. Well, when you're out there camping in Alaska, there ain't no hot shower. There's no changing the clothes. You better have the right gear, because you're going to be wet, not only from sweat, but it's raining. And even with the best rain gear, and I had really good stuff, it doesn't matter in that it's just coming down in sheets. And there's no rhyme or reason. And there were times where I literally was questioning my own sanity. I had spent a sizable amount of money getting out there. I'd bought my tags and everything, and then I had obviously a guide fee. And I was like, I cannot believe that I've spent this kind of money, because it's only a 10-day season. And, there's a significant likelihood that I'm going to come back empty-handed. And not that I had resolved myself, because you never give up, ask Doug Flutie, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You got to go for it. And so I kept hunting and hunting and hunting, and there it was. And out of the corner of my eye, came back the wrong direction, and,
Wow.
Good Lord took care of
fast,
me.
Right?
It did. Wow. As they say, the blind squirrel found a few nuts.
Dropped him with a Bergara rifle, correct?
Bergara 300 PRC, Burris 4x20. And, I do like to say, one shot, DRT, dead right there. Yeah. I mean, just, shot placement.
Wow.
I feel like we're just really getting into it, and here we are having to quit, man.
I know. This has been fun. Just to be able to live through you on some of these hunts and these stories.
An honor to be asked. I mean, I really am. It's kind of boyhood dream, you know what I mean?
So tell us about your show in like 30 seconds. Well, how can they find your show?
We are on WJBZ, and so we are there on 96.3, and it is the Weekly Law Roundup. It is on every Tuesday night from 6 to 7.
Okay.
You can stream it. You can pull it up, and we have various folks. We've had folks from the TWRA. Matt's been on the show talking about, hunting and fishing laws and things of that nature, changes in the same.
Yeah.
And so just try to provide a good public resource and a ability to educate the public, very similar to what you guys are doing, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Go check his show out. This has been fun. Looking forward to maybe doing it again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you.
If you need a good lawyer in Knoxville, this is your guy.
All right. And the best dressed one too, right?
Facts.
All right. Well, this is Tennessee WildCast. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org. and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee WildCast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.